problem and the stakeholders, that the multi-stakeholder process is particularly well suited to deal with some of the challenges that we face. Certainly none of us can predict where innovation will be going next, and I think all of us agree that we need to be careful about sort of blanket ex-ante rules that could have at least the potential to stifle investment in innovation. As circumstances change on the ground, and they do change quite rapidly, as we all know, with technological changes, changes in business models, the multi-stakeholder mechanism can adapt more quickly than traditional regulatory activity, and they can oftentimes provide more customized solutions to fit the unique context of a particular problem. This, of course, creates efficiencies for consumers as well as for the marketplace. And given that, I think oftentimes in the first instance, we ought to look to multi-stakeholder processes. Now, let me just also, like John, highlight an area where, and I do think oftentimes these processes are most effective when you have a hybrid form, and I think we've seen a hybrid form of government and multi-stakeholder processes. I also want to just expound a little bit on a process that I was directly involved in at the FCC, and this is one that doesn't get a lot of attention, but it was hugely successful, and it involved the FCC's Measuring Broadband Performance program. There, for those of you who are not familiar with it, there was concern that ISPs were advertising performance that exceeded what they actually were delivering. And so there was a very clear objective up front, to your point, Danny, of laying out very clear objectives and principles as to what this process should accomplish. Very clear objective was, how do you develop a testing methodology that would accurately reflect the performance of very different wireline broadband platforms, the cable as well as the telco platform. This was an intersection of policy as well as technical issues, because as you might imagine, coming up with a testing methodology that would yield apple-to-apples type data and that would accurately reflect the performance of these networks was no small feat, and it hadn't been done before. There were various apps, speed tests, et cetera, but nothing that had captured a comparative performance of these different networks. The process for coming up with the solution was laid out in the National Broadband Plan. And before the FCC actually sort of served as a convener, members in the ecosystem were already getting together from industry, civil society, consumer groups. But the FCC came in and sort of co-opted the process, and I think added quite a lot of value, not by substituting